Well, hello my lovelies, it's Murky Meg here. It's Monday the 5th of December and today I'm going to be talking about something that's rather delicate, and that's with regards to Harry and Meghan's treatment of the late Queen Elizabeth II and the final weeks and months before her death. Now, over the weekend, the Daily Telegraph published an article which was written by Camilla Tomley, and it really doesn't paint Prince Harry in a very good light with regards to how he treated Her Majesty, her late Majesty, in the run-up to her passing. So I thought that I would dedicate a video detailing what this article discussed, because I was quite shocked with it, to be perfectly honest. I know that things were bad, but I didn't quite understand how bad things really were. Now, according to the Daily Telegraph, they have spoken to a number of well-placed sources to try and piece together what really happened in the final weeks and months before Queen Elizabeth II died. And it's in relation to the couple she generously, as they put it, described as much-loved members of the family. And bear in mind that everybody was aware that there was a docuseries coming out and that Harry was writing his manuscript. Spare. Well, he wasn't really writing, is it? It's been ghostwritten, so he's just basically talked to a ghostwriter, hasn't he? And he's written it. But everybody was aware that these two projects were in the pipeline and they were very much going to be released. Apparently, according to sources, it already riled the Queen's nearest and dearest that Harry and Meghan chose to appear on Oprah on the 7th of March 2021 while Prince Philip was in hospital. And we now know that Her Majesty herself was suffering from her own very significant health problems. And everybody in the family would have been aware of that. An insider explained to Giles Brandreth, who is publishing a biography, Elizabeth, an intimate portrait, and this insider said the late Queen not only knew that the Duke's health was failing, but her own. It became clear that she was on borrowed time as she began to tie up loose ends. That's what made the Sussex's behaviour doubly difficult to deal with. The timing could not have been more insensitive. We all know that the Oprah Winfrey was retorted by the now infamous recollections may vary. But what we don't know was that in the private moments, Harry's grandmother was, according to those who knew her best, devastated, bewildered and disappointed with what she found out. She dismissed it as television nonsense, and in fact, Prince Philip's interpretation of the Oprah Winfrey interview was madness, according to insiders. And the Queen questioned why they were persisting on attacking the very institution that had given them so much. And she was in disbelief at Harry and Meghan's abandonment woes when the perception from the very top of the firm right down to the bottom was that everybody had bent over backwards for the couple. In Tom Bower's book, he said that the late Queen did not want Meghan Markle to be at Prince Philip's funeral, adding, when she found out she wasn't coming, thank goodness Meghan isn't coming. When the late Queen found out that Harry was writing a book, one source says news of the book changed everything. It set back any hope of a reconciliation because there is a limit to what you can discuss with someone you suspect is taking notes of every conversation. Then Harry and Meghan landed back in the UK in April of this year, and it was the first time they'd done that together since moving to California, and they made a beeline for Windsor Castle to see the Queen, allegedly. Having agreed that the couple would meet Charles and Camilla beforehand, Harry and Meghan barely had time for a cup of tea, which was why everybody within the inner circle was so shocked when Harry went on to US network NBC when he was at the Invictus Games and claimed that he'd popped in to see his grandmother to make sure that she was protected. This caused so much offence. And in quoting the Telegraph, it's the irony of Harry failing to realise that the only people Queen Elizabeth felt she needed protecting from was at that stage were the Sussexes themselves. They didn't hang around very long in April, but they did return back for the Platinum Jubilee 2 months later. And once again, the couple made a beeline for Windsor. and they wanted to see the Queen. They also requested that they wanted a professional photograph of the Queen with Lilibet and Archie. This was denied. She used the excuse that she had a bloodshot eye. But one really does have to kind of think that the Queen knew exactly their game plan. According to sources, Harry was persistent in his desire to get an official snap of the two Lilibets together. It never happened because the Queen passed 3 months later. Now, if the Montecito duo complain that they were marginalised during the Jubilee events, nothing could be further from the truth. Everybody was busy over those 4 days, and it was incredibly hectic, so nobody really had time for their shenanigans. And who would blame them? Everybody's guard was up because, let's face it, everything that they would have said to Harry could have had the possibility to end up on television or in a book or in a reality TV series. With regards to the Welleses' plans and not seeing Harry and Meghan, a source says they were incredibly busy that weekend, managing the logistics around their children's involvement, but they also felt they needed to be steely because a line had been crossed. There had still been no acknowledgement of the pain the Sussexes have caused, let alone an apology. And sources claim that an arm was thrown around Harry and Meghan to include them as much as possible as non-working royals, only for them to reject every single peace offering that was reached out. Harry and Meghan were offered the opportunity to attend both the party at the palace on the Saturday night and the Sunday afternoon's Platinum Pageant. Oh, that's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Platinum Pageant. No, Platinum Pageant. Yep, that's it. Platinum Pageant. Harry and Meghan denied both requests for them to attend, and when they left, there was a sigh of relief. God, how we tried, said one aide. Now, with regards to the book and the upcoming reality TV show, there's no plan to provide a running commentary from Buckingham Palace, but rest assured, they will put any wrongs right, and they plan to retaliate if any inaccurate things are said. But what's concerning is that in the run-up, the months before she died, Harry completely bombarded the Queen for requests and phone calls. In fact, King Charles told the late Queen that he was not a bank when she asked him why he wasn't taking Harry's calls when she stepped in to try and heal their rift. And press are now saying, and they're running with reports, that the Queen tried to ease the tensions between Charles and Harry when Charles stopped taking phone calls from Harry because he was fed up being asked for money. That's right, Harry apparently bombarded the Queen with calls in her final year of her life about money. Remember, this is a 35 or 36-year-old man. He was 35 or 36 at the time. He's 36. Asking his grandmother why his father won't take his calls because he's asking about money. Is that normal? A 35, 36-year-old asking for money? No, it's not normal. But the Queen, the late Queen, ever the diplomat, asked Charles about why he was only accepting emails and not phone calls from Harry, to which he replied, "Because I'm not a bank." According to news reports, the late Queen was happy to speak with Harry, but when he asked for money, she'd say, "Why don't you speak to your father?" Harry told her that Charles wasn't taking his calls anymore. That's right. Not only did he ask his father for money, he asked his grandmother for money. Charles insisted that his son must email him instead. According to newspaper reports, members of the family, including William, had stopped speaking to Harry when they learned of his book deal, fearing what they said could end up in print. Apparently, Harry is not as well off as people led to believe. He's wasting his money. We are all aware of just how much an extravagant lifestyle the duo have. They are constantly taking private planes, private jets, and flying here, there and everywhere. That Montecito mansion must be an eye-watering amount of money to upkeep. So, is it right that Harry bombarded not only his father, but the late Queen with calls asking for money? Allegedly, according to reports, that he knew that her health was failing, or at least he should have known her health was failing. And even if he didn't, as some have suggested that it was kept from him, is it really acceptable to ask a 96-year-old for money? and keep bombarding them about why their own father is not taking his calls. I suggest Harry actually takes a long, hard look at his behaviour, because this is completely unacceptable. The late Queen was grieving for the passing of her husband and had significant health issues of her own, yet she was made to play peacekeeper because of a petulant man-child. I really hope Harry's proud of himself, because nobody else is. One thing that might come about with regards to this book and the reality TV show that's coming out in a couple of days is that the palace are no longer silent and that they are going to respond to any false claims. Anything that they can hit back with, they will. And I hope that it continues, and I hope that it happens. Speaking of hitting back, yesterday a a global press secretary, yes, Harry and Meghan have a global press secretary, for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex hit back at claims that Harry said that the Brits need to learn a lesson. In this statement, the spokesperson says this is a baseless hit piece masquerading as journalism. This story is riddled with inaccuracies, not least of which is, quote, attributed to Prince Harry, to accuse a man who spent 10 years serving his country of wanting to teach that same country a lesson is not only an attempted distraction. Oh, Harry, mate, you really aren't one to talk about distractions, attempted distractions, because over the last week with regards to your brother and your sister-in-law being in America and the attempted distractions that your team have done, you accuse other people of doing it too. Anyway, on with this. He said, but an unfortunate and predictable tabloid strategy to pit him against his country is shameful and manipulative, especially when Prince Harry has never spoken ill of the British public. I beg to differ, Harry. You said you hated Britain, and you have very large contempt for the British public. It's very interesting that these words are not from him himself, but their spokesperson. That in itself is very telling, because legally he can say, it's not my words, it's my spokesperson, if he ever takes them to court, which quite frankly is a possibility, because we all know how litigious Harry and Meghan are. But I suspect, because it was the Sun that ran this headline, that he said that Brits need to learn a lesson, all their T's had been crossed and all their I's had been dotted before they ran that story. They would know that if they got anything wrong, he would come guns blazing at them. So I suspect they have an ironclad source. In other news, second trailer of their reality show has hit. Netflix has dropped the second trailer and it is a doozy. So I will be doing a video tomorrow on this one. And as you can imagine, I've got quite a lot to say about it. So I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this. What do you think on Harry's behaviour with regards to the late Queen? On another subject, I'll just crowbar this in, this particular photo could cause Harry and Meghan and Netflix some major issue, because as I said in my previous video, it was taken within Buckingham Palace. You're not allowed to take photographs within Buckingham Palace because it's private residence and you have to have full permission from the monarch. This was not given. So they might be in some hot water here. What do you think of Harry's badgering the Queen for money? Do you think that a 35/6-year-old should be asking his grandmother for money? As always, I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell and also that like button. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of my followers for all the tips and all the emails, DMs that everybody sends to me. It really is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for watching once again.